This thing is where it all started. My loving relationship with the mountains, and it is the reason I'm not dead. But what is this about? I really love the mountains. For the last 7 years, I've spent a lot of my life living in the mountains, especially when I'm in Japan, which I'm often. I really love living in the mountains, like the good old Zen masters. But something changed. For the last 2 years, I also lived a lot in the mountains, but I did it differently. I did it with this thing. I did it as a musician, which really changed a lot. But what really did change after traveling and hiking with this one? You always hear about these artists or poem writers and book writers who just say, well, I went to the mountains somewhere far away from everybody, far away from society. I barricaded myself in a log cabin and just wrote my book, just wrote my poems, wrote my songs. I just draw something. And one of my favorite Zen masters of all time, my favorite poem writer, Mr. Noah Kahan, actually did this. Not too far from here, actually. And he lived in the mountains for almost all his life. I think it was 40 years plus or something. And he wrote the best poems I know. One that really fits the vibe is, in town, they praise me for my talents, but up in the mountains, I roam freely with no thought of gain. There's some kind of deepness, but simplicity at the same time about his poems, which I really, really like. So many great artists make sense out of living in the mountains in benefit of their art. Then I wanted to see what is up with that. What is it like living in the mountains as a musician who is just roaming around with his ukulele? So I've been to the mountains I think I lived in the mountains for in total like 2 months. Sometimes under open sky, sometimes in a tent, and sometimes in a log cabin that I found randomly, which I used as a shelter to survive a typhoon. I lived there for I think 7 or 8 days. Most of the times I lived in the mountains, I lived in Japan. I did it in the ryokan style. And all of the times I brought with me my outdoor gear, which is probably a tent. Not always, but sometimes a tent, maybe a tarp, and my outdoor cooker, my trangia, you saw that earlier in the video. Of course, a sleeping bag, my easel, and yeah, some survival snacks. And since I'm a musician, I bring with me my ukulele and of course a word book. So what is life like living in the mountains as a musician? Extremely scary and really, really, really beautiful at the same time. I think the first thing I always forget is if you want to live in the mountains and do these 1 week musician boot camps where you just create and try to find inspiration and write songs all day and make music, and you want to do that in the mountains, then you have to get up the mountain, which is a mission in itself. So these 1 week boot camps I do in the mountains always start with a mission in itself. Getting up there, which is not so easy if you have a 20 kilogram backpack. So what I learned over the last years is take as little things as possible with you. Try to survive with as little things as possible. It's also better to be independent from things that you might need to take care of. Especially if I think about a smartphone or stuff like that, it could be better, or my experience is you're more free if it's not with you. And you're more in the zone if you not take things with you that you have to take care of or that are connected to responsibilities. Other responsibilities than being an artist, being a creative person up in the mountains. So yeah, but where it starts is always climbing up the mountain, which is not easy. But once you're there, I think the second thing I always noticed is time is slowing down. The time stops maybe even. You feel like time stops. The Earth's heartbeat is really slowing down a lot up in the mountains. Probably that changed if you live up there for 40 years, but if you're doing it for 1 week and you're getting up there in the mountains and you probably you're getting surprised with this immense silence, the silence you only hear up in the mountains, or you're not hearing up in the mountains. It's like time slows down and human experience becomes a long, long, long journey. This is of course perception and perspective, but I can't really explain why this is like it is, because one of the reasons I thought it could be is because in the mountains there's happening so much. I experience so much, my human experience is overloaded and overstimulated. I see a lot of things happening, but at the same time you could argue nothing is really happening. Nothing is really happening up there. You're just with yourself, I'm just in nature, and the only thing that happens is life. But somehow it always feels like time is just slowing down to a bare minimum. The days are getting so long, and yeah, it feels like 1 week is a few months. I always experience this. I come back from the mountain and I always say to myself, wow, what a journey, what a life experience, okay. And then I look back, I think back, and I realize, oh, it's been 7 days, okay, not 2 years, it hasn't been 2 years, okay. The third thing I'm always noticing when coming to the mountains is the rules here are different, especially when it comes to weather. Like, if you want to know the weather and you're living in the city or just on the ground, then you can just pick up your phone, check the weather, and you'll know the weather for today or for the next days. Of course, it's not always true, but in the mountains, it's never true. At least not on my apps. I can't foresee the weather in the mountains. It's so unpredictable. So I started to be, whenever I'm in the mountains, I notice that I have a really big change in perception when it comes to nature and my surroundings. I think about the weather as a phenomenon which I will be experiencing, and I need to kind of foresee, because it can be really dangerous if you're not knowing what the weather's like, and if there's some, because the weather in the mountains is always way more extreme than it is on the ground. So I'm starting to try to understand what's happening around me. How are the clouds moving? How's the wind going? Is the wind really fast? Are the clouds moving fast? Are the clouds maybe carrying rain? How does it smell like? Even think about, how does it smell? Is it smelling like rain? And I try to, with my limited abilities, I try to foresee the weather by myself, which is always a fun thing to do and a fun experience. And it makes me way more aware that about that there's weather happening, if you know what I mean. But also other rules, like the rule of food. How do you get food? The rule in the city is go to the supermarket and buy something. You gotta work, get money, you can go to the supermarket and buy it. In the mountains, there is no supermarket. There's nothing. Not a single place where you can buy food, at least on a lot of mountains. Some are providing food nowadays. But it's possible that you're ending up on the mountain where there's no food. So you gotta be really careful about what do I bring with me. I always think a lot about my food and how much I am carrying with me, because of course I don't want to get the weight up so high, like go above 20 kilograms or something, but at the same time I don't want to starve. So what I did is bring lots of rice with me. I can cook that, it's not so heavy, and I can survive with it pretty easily. And then what I noticed is it's of pretty big use to have some survival skills, like have a solid set of survival skills to provide food out of nature, out of what nature is giving to you directly. Because the forest is full of food. It's full of food. We just don't know anymore. We forgot that there's thousands of possibilities to get food up in the mountains or in the forest. We're just not able to tell what is eatable, because in the supermarket it looks a bit different. Another set of rules that is different is the rule of the strongest. Like in the city, I'm from Germany and now I'm in Japan, so I'm in somewhat safe countries. So I don't, especially as a man, for a woman it's maybe different, but as a man I don't really have to worry about anything. I don't really have to worry about getting attacked or anything. It will the chance of this happening is so low that I don't have to worry about it. So in the mountains, that changes. Especially here in Japan, it totally changes. There are snakes, poisonous spiders, and especially what scares me most is the bear. Here in Japan are many black bears. And especially where I am in the north, many black bears. It's really dangerous. So the rule of me being just safe wherever I want to go is not in place anymore. And I actually had some encounters with bears. Oh, look at this. Hello, Mr. Koi. Hello. Well, as you can tell, I survived the encounters, but it was always a realization of, oh, they really exist. There are bears actually in this area, and my life is in danger wherever I go, kinda. So this is really a completely different perception of living life if your life is in danger wherever you go. This is such a change, really big change. And especially after seeing the bears, I got attacked by a bear. He gladly got scared and turned around a meter before me. That's a different story. But this really changed my perspective on how okay, it's really hard to get up in the mountains. The routes are completely different, and it's not that easy to survive up in the mountains. Why would I do that? The main reason I am doing these mountain missions over and over again is probably exactly that. It's a change of perspective. It's a change of perception. Resistance doesn't stand a chance when you're in the mountains. It doesn't matter. So many things that seem so important in my everyday life, so many opinions of other people, so many thoughts that I had that I thought were so important and needs to be thought till the end, they don't matter. I start climbing this mountain and I realize, wow, doesn't matter. Up here in the mountains, it all doesn't matter. It's a complete cut to my everyday life. It's a complete change of perspective on life. What matters now is living life. What matters in the mountains is just living life. And living, because you need to survive. And this is beautiful. This is really a beautiful setting for your mind to find peace, for your mind to calm down, and for your true self to reveal. It's the perfect setup, the perfect setting for you to shine, for yourself to bloom. And I realized this over and over again, especially when it comes to art. It's the place I can connect to my inner artist. It's the place that lets me deepen my relationship with my inner child. Because in the mountains I feel so free. I love to jump around and there's nothing to do. I don't have to clean my room or whatever, so I don't have to go to work. So what is there to do? I jump around, I write songs, I sing my heart out, I just scream, or I run around, I climb the top of the mountains, look down, then go down, go up again, whatever. So what I'm saying is my inner child finds lots and lots of fun in the mountains. I can pick up a stick, pretend that I'm in a stick fight. It's really cool, you should try that. Fight against imaginary enemies on 26, by the way. Shouldn't do that probably, but it's really fun. And yeah, so the mountains are a great place for your inner child to heal, for your inner child to grow. And your inner child has a big responsibility, or a big connection, a huge connection, the most intense connection there is with your inner artist. If your inner child is not happy with the way you live, or is not completely free in the way you live, then it will definitely affect your inner artist. This is something I noticed many artists, including myself, always seem to forget. We always think that if we can just unlock this artist, then we're good to go. But to create art, to put out creation, you need a connection to your inner child as well, who's then inspiring your inner artist. You need to live life before you can talk about it, kinda. You need to live life, have experiences, real life experiences, enjoy human experience to the fullest, to have something to write a song about. Okay? What I really love is writing songs about exactly these experiences. It's not a coincidence that most of my songs are about hikes, like almost all of them, because the main life lessons I learned and the main philosophies I started to do in my life are probably resulting of hikes, out of hikes and living in nature. So yeah, that's what I sing about. That's what I write about. I wrote a lot of songs, and I think most of them really happened to being created on a hike or up in the mountains. So yeah, there has to be something to it, right? Something magical is in the mountains. It's like all the cold wind and the fresh water coming directly out of the fountain, and my instincts, my survival instincts kicking in. All this frees my mind. It clears my mind on a deep level. My mind gets so clear, and I feel this freshness and this excitement. My lungs are burning from running up high with not so much O2, CO2. So yeah, the mountains are my number one place, maybe, to find inspiration, find a place to find being able to create, to write songs. They are all actually getting created in the mountains. So what the mountains do for me as an artist is the clear winds, the fresh water directly out of the fountain, and the magical silence that is only possible up high in the mountains. They are clearing my mind. They are bringing me peace and excitement. They bring me excitement about life. Also this sense of being so little. Up in the mountains I realized, wow, I'm really nothing. I'm really so much nothing. Especially if you're up in the mountains, nobody's there, and you're looking at the stars. Wow. I always realize, maybe it sounds strange, but I always do realize I'm really nothing. A speck of dust is probably a bit too much. I'm really nothing. I'm really small, and this is beautiful. I'm not that important. Nothing I do is really important. So yeah, I'm free to write songs. My mind is clear for new perspectives, for new ways of living. Like the thing I just noticed the other day, I'm just coming from a hike from the mountains. That's why I was inspired to make this video. A new perspective I gained is the bears. I was seeing a bear, and I was walking on the road up the mountain, and I saw a bear, and he crossed the road directly in front of me. And it was a small one, a small fat bear. And he was crossing the road in front of me. And it came to my mind, wow, first, okay, there's a bear. Oh, I get in position, think about what to do next, okay? And then it came to my mind, wow, he just crossed the road and jumped in the forest again. And it came to my mind, the perspective changed, wow. Life and the world is really more than roads and cities. I am walking on a road and living on this road. My only way up the mountain seems to be this road. So this is my only space to live for as long as I'm up and not up there. And the bear is living everywhere else. This was a crazy thought. Maybe you can understand. It was really crazy to understand that the bears have no limitations, except for maybe this road, not even this road. But me, I realized, wow, I'm just living on this road. The road is my space. And I actually wrote a song about that. So there are many, many things that I notice when I'm up in the mountains. Also notice about life, about being, about myself. Like there's a world on the outside, but in the mountains I always tend to notice, oh, there's also a world on the inside, and I can explore that as well. Okay, I think that is it. I think you get the main message. Great place to fight resistance. Great place to connect to your inner artist and your inner child again. And an amazing, it's my wellspring, the fountain of my creation maybe, of my inspiration. I love the mountains. It's a great place. Really, really, really scary, extremely scary, but really, really, really beautiful. So, and this is where it all started. In 2017 I got this camping cooker, this Trangia cooker, and it should be one of the main resources for me to get food for the next 7 years. In 2018 I was in Japan for my first time, and I was a lot in the mountains and lived there. And one time a hike got really dangerous. We've been up at 2,500 meters plus, and it got extremely cold. It got really, really cold, and we just had summer gear with us, so we were not expecting any cold. We somehow didn't think about it. We were really young as well. And so we sought shelter in a campsite where no people were. We were the only ones. Not even a reception or anything. We basically been there so much out of season that nobody was there. And the road was closed where we walked on. It was really dangerous. And this cooker kind of saved us, because we had nothing to eat but a little bag of rice. And this little bag we actually cooked overnight with some candles, because we didn't have anything to use the Trangia, so we used candles to get the water going, and cooked us some rice. It took really long for the water to get somewhat warm, so yeah, it took almost 4 hours or something to cook the rice, but we did it anyways, and we had food. And this food gave us some power to make it over the mountains. So yeah, but with this thing, my whole hiking adventure identity started to bloom. And even though the Trangia cooker is pretty ran down nowadays, it's still going strong, and so am I. I'm right now enjoying some beautiful, relaxed camp life, and this thing is still serving me good food every day. So thank you guys so much for coming by. I hope to see you again in the next video. See ya. Bye bye.